He walked into a crowded bar on a Friday night, smiled for the camera, and stepped into history's strangest silence. No alarms, no screams. Just a young medical student who was there one moment and then wasn't. For nearly 2 decades, what happened after those final steps has defied logic, haunted detectives, and shattered a family. This isn't just a missing person. This is a mystery that rewrote the rules of reality. Brian Schaffer had always seemed like someone on the brink of something big. Tall, lean, and flashing a movie star smile that made people gravitate toward him. Brian wasn't just another medical student at Ohio State University. He was the kind of person who lit up a room just by walking into it. He dreamed of one day becoming a doctor, but not in the way most people imagined. Brian wasn't driven by money or prestige. His true ambition was to combine his love for medicine with his passion for music, maybe travel the world with a band or start a career in tropical medicine. His friends called him the laid-back genius, always smart, always thoughtful, and always just cool. But beneath that charm, Brian was grieving. Just a few weeks before the night everything changed, Brian's mother, Renee, had died of a rare bone cancer. She had been his best friend, his emotional anchor. Her passing shook him deeply, and those closest to him said Brian had been quieter, a bit withdrawn, like he was somewhere else, lost in his thoughts. Still, he insisted he was fine. He even reassured his dad that he was ready to move forward. After all, spring break was coming up, and Brian had plans to fly to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis. She believed he might even propose during the trip. Life, it seemed, was starting again. March 31st, 2006. It was a Friday night in Columbus, and the city was alive with that particular energy that only comes when college students smell freedom. Midterms were over, the weather was warming, and downtown pulsed with life. Brian decided to let loose and go bar hopping with his close friend Clint Florence. The two were regulars around the Ohio State campus scene and knew exactly where to go. The Gateway complex was full of places to drink, laugh, and disappear into the chaos for a few hours. That night, Brian wore a casual orange t-shirt layered with jeans and sneakers. He looked like any other 20-something out on the town, laughing, joking, and throwing back drinks. But what no one realized, not his friends, not the bartenders, not even Brian himself, was that he was already living the final recorded hours of his life as anyone knew it. As the night went on, they stopped at multiple bars, each drink blurring time a little more. Around 1 a.m., they made their way to a place called the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a quirky bar perched on the second floor of a commercial complex. Security cameras captured Brian riding the escalator up with Clint and another friend. The timestamp read 1:15 a.m. He looked relaxed, flashing a grin as he stepped into the bar. A moment frozen in digital memory. This would be the last verified footage of Brian Schaffer. Ever. Inside the bar, things got hazy. Brian's friends claimed they lost track of him around 1:30 a.m. They waited, texted, and even called him. No answer. Eventually, assuming he had simply left without saying goodbye, they called it a night and went home. After all, it wasn't uncommon for Brian to be spontaneous, even impulsive. Maybe he left to get food. Maybe he caught a cab. Maybe he needed some air. But by morning, something didn't feel right. His girlfriend, Alexis, had been trying to call him all night. No response. He didn't show up for their planned trip to Miami. His phone went straight to voicemail. Days passed, no sign of Brian. His apartment was untouched. His car sat parked, unmoved. There were no credit card charges, no ATM withdrawals, no messages. That's when the gravity of the situation hit hard. Brian Schaffer hadn't just vanished from the bar. He had vanished from reality. The Columbus police launched an investigation. The first thing they did was pull the bar's security footage. And that's when the mystery took its strangest, most disturbing turn. The footage clearly showed Brian entering the bar. Multiple angles, multiple timestamps. There was no doubt it was him. But as detectives scoured every second of the tapes afterward, they made a chilling discovery. Brian was never seen leaving. There were only two exits. One was the main public entrance, covered by cameras. The other was a back service exit, which led directly into a construction site filled with debris, jagged rebar, and dangerous drop-offs. Not only was there no footage of Brian using that exit, But walking through that area at night, possibly intoxicated, would have been extremely risky, if not impossible. It was as if Brian had walked into the bar and simply evaporated. This wasn't a case of someone disappearing in the wilderness or vanishing off a dark highway. This was a man in a busy, crowded bar, surrounded by people under surveillance, in a city, in the age of cell phones and cameras. And yet there was nothing, no trace, no witness, no clue. Word of the case spread quickly across Ohio and then the country. Flyers bearing Brian's face were plastered across campus, airports, city buses, and gas stations. Local news covered the mystery almost daily. People whispered theories in coffee shops and dorm rooms. Had he been murdered inside the bar? Did he fake his own disappearance and flee the country? Was there someone watching him, waiting? But none of it made sense. There were no signs of a struggle, no motive, no clear opportunity, and no evidence at all. To his friends, his family, and especially to Alexis, the woman who thought she was about to get engaged, Brian's sudden disappearance felt like being dropped into a nightmare where time stood still and nothing could be trusted. Every door led nowhere. Every clue dissolved on contact. And so began one of the most baffling disappearances in modern American history. A mystery that still haunts the city of Columbus, Ohio, and chills the spine of anyone who dares to look closer. The bar was quiet now. The music had long stopped, the lights dimmed, and the staff had gone home. The laughter that once echoed from its walls had been replaced by a whisper, one that said something wasn't right here. 2 days had passed since Brian Schaffer stepped onto the escalator at the Ugly Tuna Saloon. And still, not a single soul could say what happened to him after. Detectives paced slowly through the bar's interior, retracing every step. They watched and rewatched the grainy surveillance footage from outside. Brian smiling, hands in his pockets, following Clint and Meredith into the bar at 1:15 a.m. That was it. Dozens of patrons came and went afterward. Faces were tracked, matched, and identified. Everyone was accounted for. Everyone except Brian. What chilled investigators to their core was this. The footage showed him going in, but never coming out. It was like the bar had swallowed him whole. They began testing theories. Was it a camera blind spot? Did he leave with a crowd? Did he change clothes and walk out unnoticed? Each possibility was pursued, but none held up. Security footage covered both exits. Every person leaving had a face. None of them were Brian's. They tried slowing the footage, frame by frame, analyzing body shapes, movement patterns, clothing, and shadows. Nothing. He wasn't in there. So then the question became darker. Did he ever leave alive at all? The second exit, the service door, led to a treacherous construction site. It was dimly lit, filled with heavy debris and iron rods sticking up like skeletal fingers. Could he have stumbled out there, drunk, maybe injured or worse? Could his body have been missed? Cadaver dogs were brought in. The area was searched exhaustively. No blood, no signs of foul play, no body. It felt impossible. It was impossible, but it was happening. Meanwhile, Brian's loved ones were living in a slow-motion horror film. His father, Randy Schaffer, was tireless. A man once weathered but hopeful, he became obsessed. He plastered the city with flyers. He begged for tips on local news. He walked neighborhoods alone, calling his son's name into the wind. But each day, that wind only answered with silence. Randy refused to believe his son would just walk away. Brian had a future. He had love. He had plans. But as weeks turned into months, no plan could explain the void he left behind. Alexis, Brian's girlfriend, was a wreck. She kept calling his phone every night. For weeks, it went straight to voicemail, until one night it rang. She jumped to her feet, heart pounding. It rang, and then went dead. She tried again. No answer. The carrier said it could have been a glitch. Or maybe someone turned the phone on. That moment twisted everything inside her. Was he alive? Hiding? Hurt? Running? Her mind spiraled. Police traced the phone ping. It registered in Hilliard, a suburb outside Columbus. They sent officers. Nothing turned up. That lone ring became a ghost, haunting everyone who heard about it. It opened the door to a new horror. What if he was alive and no one could find him? With no leads, the internet filled the silence. Online sleuths devoured the case. Reddit threads exploded with theories. Some believed he had faked his disappearance. Others suggested he was murdered inside the bar and his body hidden, perhaps by staff, in a crawl space or trash chute. But every inch of the building was searched. No evidence, not a drop of blood, no struggle, no hidden room. Some floated the idea of a serial killer, a shadowy figure stalking the bar that night, waiting for someone like Brian. But no other disappearances matched, no pattern, nothing linked. Then there were the surreal theories. A few people grasping for anything claimed he never left the bar because he never could. They whispered ideas of time slips, dimensional rifts, or a mental break so severe he forgot who he was and vanished into the streets. Others latched onto symbolism. The bar's name, Ugly Tuna Saloona. Quirky, odd, and now cursed. Like a place that didn't just serve drinks, but consumed souls. Meanwhile, his family was fracturing. Clint, Brian's close friend and the last person to see him, stopped cooperating with the police early on. He lawyered up, wouldn't take a polygraph, wouldn't answer certain questions. Technically, he didn't have to, but his refusal cast a shadow. Was he hiding something? Did he know more than he admitted? Police couldn't prove anything. Clint wasn't alone. He didn't have time to dispose of a body, no motive. But his silence screamed. The weeks dragged into months, and then into years. Brian's bedroom remained untouched. His guitar still leaned against the wall. His favorite records gathered dust. Alexis kept hoping, even imagining him walking through her door one day with an apology, a story, a reason. But with every new day, the hope dimmed and was replaced by a gnawing void. Then came 2008. A windstorm hit Columbus, downing power lines. Amid it all, tragedy struck again. Randy Schaffer, Brian's father, was killed when a tree branch struck him outside his home. The man who had never given up died never knowing what happened to his son. At his funeral, people left notes for Brian in the guest book, just in case he was still out there watching. The sadness was a slow poison. The mystery had devoured more than Brian. It took his father. It broke Alexis. It drove a wedge through his friends. And still, it gave no answers. Years passed. Every so often, a tip would surface. A blurry photo of a homeless man in Mexico, a blog post claiming a sighting in Jamaica, a drunken bar story in Florida. None panned out. Then came 2020. The FBI released an age-progressed image of Brian Schaffer, what he would look like now. Thinner face, slight wrinkles, same eyes. They paired it with a new plea. If you've seen him, call. But no one called. Because Brian had done something that almost no one can do in today's world. In an era of smartphones, GPS, facial recognition, and 24/7 surveillance, he had simply vanished. Not a single digital footprint. No tax records, no job, no body, no truth. Some people believe he's still alive, living off the grid, haunted by something we'll never understand. Others think he died that night, lost to a terrible accident or something far worse. But everyone agrees on one thing. The Brian Schaffer case isn't just a disappearance. It's a portal into the terrifying idea that no matter how safe we feel, how closely we're watched, how connected our world becomes, sometimes people can simply disappear into thin air. Years pass, seasons change, but the absence of Brian Schaffer doesn't fade. It deepens, like a wound that never scars over. It has now been nearly 2 decades since a young, ambitious medical student walked into a bar and didn't come out. By all logical measures, the case should have closed years ago. Cold files are usually defined by lack of leads, but Brian's file is different. It's not cold. It's frozen. Frozen in a moment. Locked in a place where reality doesn't follow the rules. For many investigators, this became more than a missing person case. It became an obsession. Detective Andre Edwards, one of the original Columbus officers on the case, later admitted that in his entire career, nothing haunted him like this. It's as if he evaporated, he once said. And people don't just evaporate. But here's where the case starts to get darker. Not in the way of blood or brutality, but in the psychological terror it leaves behind. Because if someone can disappear like this, what else don't we know? The theories, once wild, begin to take root in desperation. One of the most disturbing centers on what could have happened inside the bar. The Ugly Tuna Saloona was located in a peculiar spot. Second floor, with only 2 exits. Security footage covers both. No footage shows Brian leaving. But what if the camera missed him? What if he changed clothes, as some theorists believe, walked out with a hat low over his eyes? It sounds plausible, until you realize something chilling. Columbus PD went frame by frame. They analyzed every person who walked out. Every single one. Not only were they all accounted for, but most were questioned. If Brian had slipped out, he did so in a way no one has been able to recreate, even with staged tests. Investigators tried recreating exit scenarios with decoys in similar builds, lighting and clothing. Still, Brian was nowhere in the model. The only way out was unrecorded, or inhuman. Then there's the construction theory. Behind the bar, the service exit led to a dangerous, half-finished site. What if Brian, disoriented or drunk, wandered through it, fell into something, and was never found? Problem is, police searched it. Cadaver dogs combed the area. Ground-penetrating radar was even used in some parts. The location was eventually completed and opened. No body was found. No clothing. No trace. So then, what's left? Here's where the theories become truly unsettling. People used to make different theories about him. Some say, maybe Brian just walked away. He was dealing with the grief of losing his mother. He was burned out from medical school. He was under pressure, maybe wanted a simpler life. He had talked about living on a beach someday. Some say he was obsessed with Jimmy Buffett's island escapism, the idea of leaving behind the stress of modern life for a tropical nowhere. But if that's true, he pulled off one of the most flawless disappearances in modern American history. No credit cards used, no passport movement, no known aliases, no verified sightings. And why the Ugly Tuna? Why that night? Wouldn't a runaway at least pack a bag? Foul play, close to home. This is the one that gnaws at people the most. Clint Florence, Brian's best friend, the last known person to see him alive. He lawyered up quickly and refused to take a polygraph. That in itself doesn't prove guilt. Polygraphs are fallible. Any lawyer would advise against it. But when someone vanishes and the best friend won't cooperate, it sets fire to every red flag. Some believe Clint knows what happened. Maybe not murder, maybe a drunken accident. Maybe Brian fell, hit his head, and something was covered up. But again, where's the body? How do you hide a body in a fully operating bar with security cameras, witnesses, and limited time? Others think Clint just panicked, that it was a prank gone wrong, or a fight. But if that were the case, it would have unraveled by now, right? Unless someone else helped. But police dug, and hit nothing. A more haunting possibility. Brian was targeted. Someone followed him, lured him, maybe even waited. This theory suggests a predator, a person with knowledge of the bar layout, blind spots, and exit routes, someone who knew how to make someone disappear. That theory spun into another, a human trafficking ring. It's a long shot, but not impossible. Brian was young, fit, clean-cut, and some groups don't just take women. The problem? No evidence, no message, no demand, no trace. But then, the phone rang. Remember that eerie night when Alexis called and, instead of voicemail, it rang? For seconds, her heart stopped, and then silence. The phone pinged to Hilliard, Ohio. A cell tower picked it up. Verizon said it could have been a glitch. Or, someone briefly turned it on. Who? Why? Police followed the lead. No match. And Alexis? She was never the same. She waited, prayed, held out longer than anyone. But years passed. Her voice on Brian's old voicemail became brittle. Her hope faded. Eventually, she moved on. But a part of her always waited for that second ring. In 2021, a photograph started making its rounds online. It showed a man, disheveled, asleep under a tarp in Mexico. He looked like Brian, at least from the nose up. The post exploded. People zoomed in, analyzing facial structure, ear shape, posture. The FBI was contacted, but it wasn't him. Every time hope flickers, it's snuffed out again. Each new theory becomes a match in a hurricane. Brief, bright, then gone. But here's where the case becomes less about Brian and more about us. What is it about this case that terrifies people so deeply? Maybe it's because Brian had everything: education, family, love, youth. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't troubled. He wasn't running. And yet he disappeared, without sound, without struggle, without trace. And in that void, we see the worst possibility, that we're not as safe, not as seen, as we think we are. Brian's story hit people hard because it broke the illusion. The idea that we're always connected, always monitored, always locatable, shattered. That night, surveillance failed, cameras missed, friends assumed, and a man ceased to exist. It's not just the fear of death, it's the fear of erasure. And now, decades later, Brian has become a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of mystery. His face is printed on missing person posters and true crime thumbnails. His name is whispered in Reddit threads and late-night podcasts. People who've never met him dream about him. Some say he visits in their sleep. Others claim he sends them messages through static or song lyrics. He has become folklore. And yet, to his family, to those who loved him, he's not a symbol. He's a brother, a son, a friend, a ghost that never goes away. There's one last detail that many forget. In 2006, just weeks before his disappearance, Brian spoke with his brother Derek. They were reminiscing about their mother's passing. Brian said something strange. He said, "I think she's up there waiting for me, man." At the time, it sounded like grief. But now it sounds like foreshadowing. Whether Brian Schaffer is alive or not may never be known. But one thing is certain: his story will never die, because it speaks to something primal, the fear of being lost, the terror of being forgotten. And so we're left with a closing image: a bar, empty at 2 a.m., music silent, neon flickering, and somewhere out of view of the cameras. A door creaks open, and just like that, he's gone. The year is 2025. 18 years have passed, and yet the name Brian Schaffer still pulses through the veins of true crime communities like a virus that won't die. Reddit threads pile up, each post another whispered theory, another person trying to decode the impossible. TikToks go viral, YouTube videos break 1 million views overnight, and podcasts analyze every pixel of the ugly tuna surveillance footage. New AI tools are even used to enhance the grainy footage frame by frame. Still, no Brian. And now the world has changed, but his absence hasn't. That's the cruelest part. Technology moved forward. GPS got sharper, cameras smarter, DNA faster. And yet, even with everything we have today, we're still just as blind to what happened that night in 2006. Some cases fade over time. Not this one. It grows, like a shadow that stretches with each setting sun. What began as a tragic mystery has evolved into something deeper, a cultural haunting. Because Brian's story isn't just about what happened in the ugly tuna saloona. It's about what happened afterward. The lives unraveled, the obsessions born, and the fear injected into the hearts of strangers who never even knew his name before. People become consumed by this case. Take Maria, a 34-year-old nurse from Oregon. She's never been to Columbus, never met Brian, but she knows every inch of that bar's layout. She's drawn sketches. She's filed FOIA requests. She even visited the site, filmed herself walking the route Brian would have taken. She says she dreams about him. Sometimes he's standing in the crowd outside the bar, trying to shout, but no one hears. Other times, she sees him underground, alive, eyes pleading. Or James, a retired FBI analyst, who now runs a forum dedicated solely to Exit Theory 4C, the idea that Brian left the bar through a temporary maintenance tunnel covered by a false wall for renovations that night. There's no physical proof it ever existed, but the theory has over 6,000 subscribers and ongoing 3D models in Blender. This isn't crime analysis anymore. It's digital seance. But what is it they're all chasing? Hope, truth, closure, or something more terrifying? The idea that anyone, at any time, can slip out of reality. The message that never came. One of the strangest incidents happened in 2020. A man from Illinois claimed he received a Facebook message from Brian's old account. Not a friend request, a message. It was only one word: cold. The account had been dormant for over a decade. No logins, no activity. The man took screenshots, reported it. Police looked into it. Facebook said it was likely a hack. Some old account revived by bots or bad actors. But the timestamp was 2 a.m., the exact time Brian vanished in 2006. Coincidence? Probably. But in this case, every coincidence is a fresh wound. Lexis, Brian's girlfriend, deleted all his voicemails except one. The final message he left her hours before going out that night. She says she still listens to it sometimes. It's not even emotional, just casual. Hey, I'll see you later. Love you. But she says the way he says later gives her chills, like he knew there wouldn't be one. The Columbus Police Department officially declared the case inactive in 2021 due to lack of new credible leads, but the file is still open. Brian is still listed as a missing person. His information is updated every year. Height, age, progression photos, possible aliases. Each update feels like a lie, because how do you update someone you've never seen again? The FBI has Brian's DNA. They have his dental records. They've compared dozens of John Does across the country. They've followed tips as far as Jamaica, Vancouver, and Brazil. Nothing ever came back. Even private detectives gave up. But his family never did. Brian's father, Randy, passed away in 2008 after a freak accident. A tree fell during a windstorm and crushed him in his backyard. Some call it just another tragedy in a cursed family. Others call it karma. A sick few think Randy knew more than he admitted and took the truth with him to the grave. His brother Derek now has kids of his own. He keeps Brian's photo in the hallway. His oldest son once asked, "Is that Uncle Brian?" And then, without being told anything about the case, asked, "Why didn't he come home?" No one had an answer. The void remains open. Brian's case is now taught in criminology courses, not as a solved story, but as a cautionary tale, a reminder that you can know everything about a person, their hopes, their habits, their relationships, and still never see their end coming. The ugly Tuna Saloona has since closed. The plaza changed. New businesses opened. The bar was remodeled, renamed, reborn. But some say at night, under flickering streetlights, you can still hear music playing faintly. That sometimes, when it's quiet enough, you'll see a shadow by the second-floor rail, standing, watching, like he never left. In that empty frame between surveillance cuts lives a ghost. Brian Randall Schaffer, age 27 at the time, medical student, son, brother, lover of Pearl Jam and sunsets and daydreaming about island life. Gone, but never forgotten. The question that remains is no longer, where is Brian? It's, how did we lose him in the first place? Because what if it wasn't one moment that stole him? What if it was everybody's mistake? The bartender didn't remember seeing him leave. The camera blinked at the wrong time. The friend didn't wait long enough. The night was too loud. The exit too dark. It wasn't a murder. It was an accident. Of time, of perception, of silence. And somewhere, Brian is still waiting. Not to be found, but to be understood.